Big wallet, big soul. But the brown have enough big bad man upon the run. Kingdom until the sun comes down. But the brown, they run this town. Big wallet, big soul. Enough big bad man upon the run. Kingdom until the sun comes down. But the brown, they run this town. From we miss small with a truant, defiant. Non-compliant, we push the dub plate, you know my boy face. Smarting to a giant, we know the farm, no alliance. But we move more weight than Home Depot move appliance. We are the one that make on the chain, you know, science to see on. Enter dance hall, whole ambiance and hunt. Low sexy girl for we song, the romance. The romance. Big wallet, big song. But the brown have enough big bad man upon the run. Kingdom until the sun comes down. But the brown, they run this town. Big wallet, big song. Enough big bad man upon the run. Kingdom until the sun comes down. But the brown, they run this town. We keep our friends close and the enemy dead. Ask Fred, who I won't forget, you don't have no head. Plus, if you see me and a big grizzly bear, he don't fight. Pour honey over me, give the bear a bite. Front of my face, act like we alright. But behind the back of the traffic, out we light for the brown, they light. They know say they light, they lean on light. They light. Big wallet, big soul. But the brown have enough big bad man upon the run. Kingdom until the sun comes down. But the brown, they run this town. Big wallet, big soul. Enough big bad man upon the run. Kingdom until the sun comes down. But the brown, they run this town. Big wallet, big soul. But the brown have enough big bad man upon the run. Kingdom until the sun comes down. But the brown, they run this town. Big wallet, big soul. Enough big bad man upon the run. Kingdom until the sun comes down. But the brown, they run this town. Big wallet, big soul. But the brown have enough big bad man upon the run. Kingdom until the sun comes down. But the brown, they run this town. Big wallet, big soul. Enough big bad man upon the run. Kingdom until the sun comes down. But the brown, they run this town. Yeah, all about the body brown international. We no partial, universal, global. Some boy come testing on it critical, cause no local. But the brown themselves come flash it out like the marshal. Better hear me though. Because to the one they smoking out man like Elon. Anyway, to the one they say, yeah we all. As we flow. Big wallet, big soul. But the brown have enough big bad man upon the run. Kingdom until the sun comes down. But the brown, they run this town. Big wallet, big soul. Enough big bad man upon the run. Kingdom until the sun comes down. But the brown, they run this town. From we miss small with a truant, defiant. Non-compliant, we push the dub plate, you know my boy face. Smarting to a giant, we know the farm, no alliance. But we move more weight than Home Depot move appliance. We are the one that make on the chain, you know, science to see on. Enter dance hall, whole ambiance and hunt. Low sexy girl for we song, the romance. The romance.
Yes, King.
Good evening. We're live.
Live.
Greetings in the name of God, most high and gracious. I am G. Michael Reed from Belize City. We come to you with our weekly Wednesday podcast. Last week we had a little truncated show. Our fellow host and hostess were previously engaged. This week we're expecting to be joined once again by Gregory Morrison from LA and Joe Coe from Belize City. We've just been listening to the news, and it seems the news is good as pertain to the economic situation of Belize. And well, I'm sure that's going to make a lot of people very happy, in particular those who are loyalists of the People's United Party who are now in government. Here goes Gregory Morrison, and I don't know if he's going to be made happy by the news coming out of Central Bank. How are you, Greg?
Good evening. Good evening. I'm doing well, thank you. What's the news coming out of Central Bank?
That the economy is vibrant, that the cost of living has gone down, and the people are making more money and paying more taxes to the government. And that the economy is fully recovered. They're servicing their debts. Now, I don't know. I don't think they're going to give us bad news if there's bad news to give. So, but that is what they're saying. I don't know, Greg. And I'll tell you what, given the state that the UNIP are in, you have to kind of say that the people are doing too badly. What do you think?
Well, I am always happy to know that the economy and the people of Belize are doing well, and it doesn't matter under which government that's reported to be happening under. That's my primary concern, is the welfare and the well-being of the people of Belize and the country as a whole. So whichever government is able to foster that and to bring that about is the government and the policies that I would support.
Well said. Well said. Yeah. I mean, and I imagine that should be the sentiment from any loyal and patriotic Belizean, no? I think I'd hope everybody. By the way, first of all, happy Thanksgiving. Is the turkey ready?
Yes.
How does it look for the?
My sister, they're doing it, so I'm just planning on going, and like they say, just put my foot on the table and eat. That's my plan. I'm charged with making I told them I was going to make a meringue pie. That's what I usually do. But somehow I have a feeling for peach cobbler. So I think that's what I'm going to be roughing up for this Thanksgiving.
You mean you actually get into the kitchen from time to time and hash a little something up?
I do very often, not just from time to time. Quite often, I do that. Mostly baking, but I do cook my food.
Okay, can you baste the turkey?
I can do everything to a turkey. I could flip a turkey.
All right. And you certainly could eat a turkey for sure, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. But at Christmas time, my favorite food is the ham. I love a good, and I love like the Farmer John one. One year I was brave enough to actually go and get one of the southern ham that we used to get from Belize. I don't know how often we get it now, but the one that's cured and it comes in the sack. And one year I went ahead and I spent, I don't remember, it was an incredible amount of money at that time. I think it was like $100-something or whatever. And it came from either the Carolinas or Tennessee. I can't remember where it came from, but it was very good. But I prepared it incorrectly. I didn't have a big enough pot to cook it in, and I didn't cook it for sufficiently long enough so that it boiled out all the salt. So the only way I could eat that ham was to soak it in some water before I cut it in slices, and then soak it in some water and let it steam a little bit, and then I could eat it because that sucker was salty.
That reminds me of those old picnic hams that we used to use when we were coming up. Remember those in a little crocker sack? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It actually either came in a crocker sack at that time or a flour bag, but it was a very traditional kind of way. I remember, and I saw it in one of the booklet, that had Christmas things for sale, and I said, "Oh, I'm going to get one of these this year." And I tried. I had a house, so I went in the backyard and I didn't have a big enough pot, and I put it in a can. I remember a big can, and the heat, and I created like a little fire heart, but the heat was too much, and it melted the seam that seemed to have been put together with solder, and so I couldn't put too much water in the pan, and it was just a mess. But I ended up doing the best I could with it for Christmas.
And you know what's funny? I haven't eaten ham in over 50 years. I have not.
Oh, why are you? Is it dietary or is it
That's
religious?
interesting. First of all, let me say hi to Lisa, who's coming on board. Actually, there are a number of reasons, and one, and this is an interesting story because I used to work at a factory in New Jersey by the name of Sioux Pork, Sioux like the Indian Sioux. Big business, and I used to carry the half of the hog off of the trucks on and throw them onto the conveyor belts. And I used to watch the butchers as they cut, and pork or something that gets abscessed quickly, and they would have an abscess on it, and he would just take the slice the knife and slice off that piece of abscess and send it on through. And I was always certain there was some left on there. And so that kind of turned me off.
Why are you telling me this? Christmas is too close.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, I'm telling you why I don't know. So, and
I know, I understand.
There's a bit of spirituality also, because after I started studying the Muslim religion, I've studied quite a number of religions actually, and it's interesting because I was going to ask you, as a man that doesn't necessarily, I wouldn't consider you certainly not a religious fellow, though I don't know where your spirituality lies. But isn't there some kind of contradiction with celebrating Christmas and not believing in that aspect of it?
Definitely, we know Christmas is really a pagan holiday like Easter. You know, all these are just adaptation from Rome to kind of get everybody in. But so that contradiction exists, but it doesn't
stop you from having fun at Christmas. let's welcome Joe. Hi Joe, how you doing? We missed you last week, man. All is well?
Yeah, man. Yeah, I'm alive and I'm trying to live now.
All right. Well, if you just start to try, then you're late in the game. But yeah, you've been living for a long time. Trust me. Hi Julia. Good evening. Julia is saying big up to the panel. And Joe, you celebrate Christmas? Are you a big a fan of the season?
Well, I do. In my earlier years, I used to go to midnight mass.
Oh, okay.
But then I never really celebrated in the true sense of the spiritual Christian type way. It was more for having fun in terms of evoking the spirits, going from house to house. But as the years went by, I think I come to better appreciate and understand what the birth was about, and eventually the crucifixion, which was the redemption, the power of redemption.
You subscribe to the whole story and the narrative.
I don't know if I'm having internet problems or not. Can you guys hear and see me well?
I can see you. There's a pause in your delivery sometimes. I can hear Joe well. And Joe, can you hear Greg? Can you see him?
Let me log out and try and get back in.
And I'm hearing him.
Yeah.
I do believe that that his death was intended to give us the power of redemption. No? That if we sin and we have the sense of guilt and we repent and we show remorse for what we did wrong, that he would forgive us.
Joe, that was a difficult topic for discuss. And I've heard people say that you shouldn't discuss religion and politics, and I think that's foolishness. I think those are the two topics you need to discuss. But this whole matter of God and the Son of God and whether he was born, as Greg was reminding us, that Christmas was actually a pagan holiday, and it comes around the time of the winter solstice, where the sun, the rebirth of the sun, which is the sun in the sky, as opposed to the birth of a son, which there are many things about that story that doesn't make sense. Like shepherds in the field around that time of the year. You're talking about the crucifixion and forgiving of your sins. But I don't know, because there are a few questions that come to mind. If Jesus is a sacrifice that was for the sins of man, and that's correct, right? I'm okay to that point, correct?
Yes.
All right. Then why would we worship the sacrifice? Why would you consider the sacrifice equal to the God to which we offer the sacrifice to? Isn't there something not in order there?
What I find with religion, to the extent that but I read about it, because we were taught it in school as Roman Catholics from Holy Redeemer to SJC, that there were some things I just come to accept out of having the faith in it. And then as I grew older, I come to realize that if I can just believe that there is something greater than I am, which I had accepted as this self-existent infinite being.
Which is the bottom line, I believe, yeah.
Right. And if I have the confidence in myself and the faith in him, I think that faith in him helped to motivate me and give me the passion I need to succeed. So while I would accept that over the years coming up, I have seen it gone more and more towards being commercialized. So I don't think it is being celebrated in the true sense of what was intended, that we are celebrating the birth of a man who eventually, sent by his father, will eventually be crucified and give us the opportunity to redeem ourselves as sins. So I don't see it as much around today. In fact, I don't even live. They still have the midnight mass. And the last time I went, it wasn't as crowded as it used to be. In fact, churches are whole. You go to the church now on Sunday morning when that is, you go to church now.
Well, so, most of the older folks, and they
exactly.
It don't seem that they're able to drag the younger ones along like the older folks of our days used to be able to.
Right. I believe that straying away, and I think we should go back to it. Not to say that I have met people who are atheists, they don't believe in God. But I would tell you this, they have a good sense of community and a good sense of philanthropic support. So to say that you do not believe in him, that in itself by your teaching will tell you, well, just not believing in him is an unforgivable sin. But then I reason it differently. Maybe this is where I tend to differ. I believe that the person who doesn't believe but lives up to what he asks us to do, I find it difficult to understand why that person would not still be able to achieve the kingdom. Just like how I see Judas. I think Judas, yes, could be said that he betrayed him. But I believe that he sensed afterwards that he was so wrong, and he showed the remorse, and he paid the price of hanging himself. So I believe there was forgiveness for him. And that's how I try to see religion, like maybe the OCS Wells and them see.
Well, or maybe, Joe, if Jesus came to die and Judas betrayed him and made that happen and come to be, then then Judas doesn't have anything to be forgiven for, correct? I mean,
that's an argument that has been made by, and I think it's a valid argument, except again it comes back to the issue of faith. Because we will say, well, listen, the argument was made, but if he had to die to forgive the sins, then somebody had to betray him.
Right.
So some scholars take it differently and said, yes, it was Judas. He said, but he chose Judas because he and Judas were very close. You see, and he was the only one I think you could have rely on to do it. And that's what some scholars, that's the reasoning they put to it. They tried to show it that, well, it was something, it had to have been organized, even if it's just by God himself, but it had to be done. And somebody had to betray him.
You spoke of the people you know who are atheists, but I find it hard to believe that anybody is a true atheist, because we have to know that there's something else. None of us are responsible for this. We're certainly not responsible for us being here as such. And you could say, oh, I'm a mom and pop, but then that goes back ad infinitum, no? To at some point, somewhere it had to start, and something had to be responsible for all this being. So I am an ardent believer in a supreme being, a superior being, an infinite source of life. And I really, having looked at, and I don't know if you're comfortable enough discussing it, because many people aren't, but I
think we should. I know of a priest. He came here as a scholastic, a Jesuit, then he became a priest. And he had his doubt. He did have his doubt about whether, in fact, that there was this God and the way he was taught. But he found his way because he got involved in this theological revolution within Central America. No? He was a part of it. But he found the truth of what he was looking for. And he said he found it in nature. You see, and the more he began to understand the universe, not just the planet Earth, and the more he began to understand, but how come all this could be happening, the speed that the Earth is moving at, while turning around at a speed in 24 hours and circling the sun. You see, and these were the things that made him feel that indeed there must be this God. So he didn't just, he had his doubt, he did admit it.
Everything is so perfect, Joe, and that to the point that when the Earth doesn't just turn, it turns in an ecliptic way, that it at some point the sun touches every part of the Earth. It turns one way, and then it goes the other way, and you can see it on the horizon as the sun rises from the north to the south.
Right.
So there has to be more than just us here. And in fact, the us that's here, if we look at Genesis, when it says, God says, let us go down and make man in our own image and likeness. It would seem to me that we are all the sons of God that we speak of. So when you say God sent his son, God became us, and all of us are his sons. So, but to stop and then worship one man as the Son of God kind of like contradicts some of the teachings that even the Bible teaches us.
Well, yeah, I suppose that there are so many things that we may want to question, and I think we should question them and try to find answers to them. But at the end of the day, I do believe that if we live simply by looking at the 10 Commandments, if not all of it, most of it, not even say that it was given to Moses and Mount Sinai, with his fiery fingers inscribing it on this tablet.
Were there only 10? Because some people suggest that there are a lot more than 10 that...
Well, let's assume we're talking about the 10. Okay. C.S. Lewis didn't believe, and he was an atheist, and he became a Christian. But he, and to some extent, I come to believe too, that it was not necessarily given by Moses. He think that those were the laws of the Jews. He said, but what's important about them? That whether they were given by Jesus or not, or by God, if you go through each one of them, they make sense.
They do make sense.
Because he said, you take the opposite and he said, thou shalt kill, thou shalt steal, thou shalt lie, thou shalt this. He said that will make sense because we are social beings. So therefore, those laws were made because we are social beings, and as social beings, we have to have a sense of collectivity. So we have to live together. And these were the kind of reasoning people were using to come to the realization that even there is not the God as how some will be taught it. The truth at the end of the day is how we interact with each other. So if we simply take love one another as I love you, for example, that's it.
Yeah. I tell you, if not religion, certainly spirituality makes a lot of sense.
That's right.
Because it's like we live in no man is an island, and that's not religious, but that philosophical and makes a lot of sense because we all live and depend on each other. We interact with one another. we contribute to the well-being of each other in whether directly or indirectly. So there's a case to be made that we ought to stop and give thanks. And this is what I think is important, that we give thanks for just being here. I don't know if you're going to identify or pinpoint any particular deity or being or place even that you would say, this is what I'm giving thanks to, but just the fact that you are here with life and able to participate in the joy of God, of the earth, no?
Yeah, I think it comes down to some simple things. Love one another as I love you, and be your brothers and sisters keeper.
Yeah.
And I think if we live by those simple quotes, and given the nature of us as social beings, you would make a far better community and a far better way of life.
Certainly. I mean, if nobody would steal, politicians would be honest, and that would be wonderful for starters. Gregory, you're back.
Yes, thank you.
How are we doing now? Yeah, we're hearing you.
Is that better?
Yeah, you're more in real time now.
Okay. Good.
Hi, gentlemen.
Hi, Lisa. How you doing?
I'm well, thank you. Hi, everyone, all our listeners out there.
I know Lisa is a big Christmas.
Happy
Right?
Thanksgiving, Lisa.
Likewise, gentlemen, likewise. I know Belize is not celebrating Thanksgiving, but I do appreciate everyone acknowledging the Belizean diaspora for celebrating Thanksgiving. And I'm celebrating Thanksgiving for everyone. It's not only for me, for a certain few in the United States.
Well, we're not celebrating yet, but if I had my way, we would be. I really think that we Belize should celebrate Thanksgiving, and coming as it does at the end of the hurricane season is a big reason why we should. And on the very day, because then we could capitalize on the many programs that America has. Thanksgiving might be the biggest holiday in the U.S., isn't it?
It is one of the most traveled holidays for sure.
Everybody, and even the whole spirit of the season, you almost feel a different spirit, a different vibe coming from people throughout the holiday season. You know what I mean? There's a more warmth and friendliness from some very sourpuss people. And talk to
There's a
you.
lot of harmony during Thanksgiving here, during the holidays. Lots of harmony. The conversations are genuine. I find, especially at the grocery stores with the moms and the grandmas and the grandpas, you see the uncles waiting in their cars for the 2 carts to pull up, with food and the turkey. It's a time. It is a time for giving here, and I see a lot of the giving. I participated a couple of days at Walmart. With the police mission police station. They were gathering toys to fill up baskets. So I was compelled walking in the door and said, you know what, let me participate. And I got my little flyer, walked in Walmart, got a couple of things and came out and dropped it in the basket and kept moving. But just the spirit and being able to give something, it's gratifying. There's a gratification that I don't think a lot of people have had an opportunity to experience. It just feels I feel like that blessing is even much more rewarding.
Well, you feel moved to give and be involved, and a part of it that I admire most is when the families come together, and it's almost like in the old-fashioned way that used to be done every day, actually. But where we used to every day go in the kitchen, in the room, and sit around the table and have a conversation. They find out what's going on in your life, Someone who, if suppose a hurricane hit with a lot of effects, would you still celebrate Thanksgiving? Yes, as long as I have life, I would be celebrating Thanksgiving. Not only on Thanksgiving Day, I give thanks every day, and even in the midst of turmoil. I mean, I give thanks, and while a hurricane might hit Belize, the world keeps turning, and there are many people. Everybody got their own turn, at Travesty. So
isn't that why we give a grace, or we pray with grace at meal times?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
If you do, I don't know that everybody does that either. And maybe less people are giving grace that you don't think about it. Yeah, but I believe that those who believe, whether you stop and vocalize it, or you just know that you're grateful for what you're receiving. Do you give grace, Gregory?
Of course, I give grace and I give thanks, and I do pray to God. As I said, my faith is strong. My faith is strong, and I do believe in a creator. I just don't construct it the same way everybody wants to construct all the stuff about, the Bible and Jesus and all that stuff. I just view it somewhat differently in many ways. Do I believe that there was a Christ born on December 25th? No, I don't believe that. Do I believe there was a virgin birth? No, I don't believe that. But I do believe that somewhere there was someone that came and preached some of the things that Jesus had indicated, that the Bible tells us that Jesus had indicated. And that is such a worthy and necessary gospel for mankind. Even if it's just optimism and hopefulness, it carries us through the day, and it carries us when it's practiced to a fulfillment and a better life that ensures all of us, like Mr. Cowie was saying, do unto others as we would like them to do unto us. And if we could just carry that principle through, love thy brother as you love yourself, and respect. If you just carry those basic principles through, the world would be a better place. It would be a more fair place, more equitable, more justice, and more livable for all human beings.
Well, there's some truth that's palpable. You can just you can feel it almost. It's true. And there are a lot of things in the Bible that is that kind of truth, or that you can feel it and know that it's true and it makes sense.
Yeah, so, it's a book of tremendous history and culture and stuff, and it carries us.
I'm with you. I think God does speak through people, and that there have been done through history quite a number of prophets that have come, and every time the world needs a prophet, God will send one. And I think that the things that have been written were not necessarily said only by Jesus, but by other prophets along the way.
Ahead of Jesus?
Yes.
Go ahead, Mr. Coy.
Well, I do believe that there were prophets. And yes, Supreme Being was communicated with us through prophets. But somehow I hold the belief that we ourselves are prophets in a sense. I believe that many times that how we relate to another person can bring that person towards a sense of community and sense of collectiveness. I have seen cases, and I've heard of them, for these celebrations like Thanksgiving, like Christmas and Easter, where these occasions, because of the celebration with people who themselves have already come to accept the sense of collective responsibility, have changed people's lives and have brought them around to come to accept that we know something. We need to begin to look after each other. So I see lone positives to these events. I see lone positives.
But Joe, you were saying you think we should get back to the going to church and praying and whatnot, but do you think we should then abandon the festivities of it, the gift giving, the joy of the season and whatnot? Should we be solemn as opposed to joyful?
No, I think that I think we should continue to celebrate it. But I think what we should do, and we should go back more towards beginning to get families then to become involved in the sense of, I thought I quoted Plato one time here that he said you educate the brain but you don't educate the heart. It's no education. So I think that whatever we talk about in terms of the Bible, in terms of the Thanksgiving celebration, I think it's something that you don't do it just on Christmas. You don't do it just on Easter and Thanksgiving. I think that is when you use that as the highlight and the culmination of the year. To say, why it's not just today we'll have this Thanksgiving. We want to have Thanksgiving every day.
But we can't say that every day. We can't have like on Thanksgiving every day. We couldn't afford that. I mean,
you can afford to have Thanksgiving every day, but you don't have to be turkey.
Well,
Right.
No, all you need to do is to reach out. Let's say you had a neighbor, and let's say you were tend to be more inward looking, but you went to some celebration of Thanksgiving or you went to something for the Christmas, and then it dawned on you, but you know something? I feel happy. I'm in this church with these people. The church over, we're greeting each other, and the joy brings to that person. That the next day and days after, he begin to come closer to the neighbor. So to me, it must be every day giving thanks to the Lord, and we give thanks to the Lord through when we help our brothers and sisters.
I hear that.
He said, when you do it for them, it's like you're doing it for me.
Yeah,
so what we are supposed to be doing is doing it every day.
I hear that part of it. I'm talking about coming together, partying, because I remember, I mean, when I was young, I couldn't, every weekend I was out there at a club or something, and I enjoyed that. And in particular during these seasons where we celebrate something, everybody get together and have a big shindig, make a lot of noise, have fun. I mean, don't you think that's also a necessary part of being a human being and enjoying life?
Of course. I think socializing as a part of human being is a part of indeed giving recognition to the Creator. Because that's what he wanted us to be. He wanted us to be there for each other. And he keeps saying it. When you're doing it for them, you are doing it for me. So we are in fact here to do those things. I am saying this, and I believe I'll experience it. It is in giving that you receive. When you give, the joy it brings. If you can afford to give, no, because maybe it was a time you couldn't, but you make it. When you give something to somebody we're really in need, there's a joy that comes with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it brings you a peace of mind, it brings you contentment. You feel so good about it. And I think that is part of our spiritual dimension of man.
Mm-hmm. This brings us back to Thanksgiving, because how do you feel when you do that for somebody and that person is not grateful? You don't feel like they thank you. So maybe this is why it's necessary for Thanksgiving to say at some point, I'm just grateful for what I'm getting here.
Well, I think what we should do, and one of the things we could do, well, I said it for our Christmas address I gave in the city. I said, let not this Christmas be as it was. Let's not wait for the prodigal son to come home and forgive him. Let's go look for him and forgive him and bring him home. Don't wait for him to come. Let's go and look for him. And I think that's part of our spiritual dimension of man, to look after each other. And you'll find happiness in it. There is no greater happiness to me than when you are together, socializing as families, as friends, and looking after each other. That's
all right. Now, let's talk about Thanksgiving, though.
And you know, that's as ancient. I just want to say that's as ancient as humankind is. You know, I think we think back even in cave days, people were happy to socialize and gather. And you know, they always said they were in groups of like 20, 28. I don't know why, but that's what anthropologists think, that they lived in little pods of groups of extended family and friends and whoever. And I'm sure there was a lot of communion, and so it when we do it, it's just part of our inner makeup and being, you know, of our humanity and how we evolve. So I think it is important, and traditionally humankind would not have survived if we didn't have a kindness and a sharing capacity. And so as we modernize ourselves, we kind of sometimes move away from it, but I don't think so. I think people still, they're just that it's more obvious now that people are more connected to just their immediate family and to hell with everybody else out there. I think that's kind of the perception we get, but I don't think it is. That's the case for most people anyway. But it does appear like that in a great instance.
But there are other reasons also for that socializing and coming together, because not everybody's going to be a carpenter. Not everybody's going to be a good cook like you, Greg. Not everybody's going to be an accountant. So everybody has a role to play. And
Right.
together, that is how the society is able to move ahead, no?
Yes.
So there are lots more. It's again, we come back to the point that it's common sense to come together, to believe in things, to help one another. It's just a commonsensical thing. You can't do it.
I'm trying to get Clinton to send a link to Verlene so she could log on to her email. I just posted her email.
Okay.
Is he talking to us?
Yeah, I'm talking to you guys. So, and to Clinton, because I texted him and he didn't answer. So
Who was that?
Oh.
Vladimir Putin?
Oh no.
Oh, hey, you frightened me. I'm thinking you said Putin. I'm saying, well, we need to get large now, boy. I was trying to get Shine, as you can see, Shine. And
Yeah.
Finnegan wrote a book which was released today. And the highlight seems to be that he was able to bring the warring factors of the UDP together, or at least in the room without no bloodshed, no? Because it's been vicious, man. Have you seen some of the exchanges, Greg, on Facebook?
Yeah. It has been tremendous mudslinging going on.
They are hemorrhaging. Yeah, it's sad, man.
Yeah.
I don't know. In fact, I saw Finnegan said today, it'll be another 1961 if they don't get their act together. And 1961, of course, when the UDP won no seats, and they had to appoint a leader of the opposition or a member for the opposition, and Goso was the only one in there, no?
Yeah. That was the NIP, and that was before the formation of the UDP. But that did happen. That did happen in our history, and the governor had to make the appointment of an opposition leader.
Yeah, but of course, and you say you make the distinction, but the UDP was just a continuation of the NIP.
NIP and two other parties, the PDM and the Liberal Party.
But of course, we're in opposition to the PUP anyway, so that was the PUP and the opposition.
But you know, when you think of it, those three parties that came together were very distinct, and they had very different national objectives. And even today, those issues are at play, a little less but it did have some real philosophical difference between the leadership that then formed the United Democratic Party from those three factions.
You agree with that, Joe?
My recollection that there was some, for example, the Liberal Party was more business oriented. They came out of the Chamber of Commerce.
Mm-hmm.
And then you had, of course, the NIP, which was more the Golson type philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
And the third one, I don't remember which was the third one. I know you had one there with this Baliware.
It was the Liberal, the NIP, and the I said it just now. I can't remember what it is.
Yeah, there's a third. I can't remember it either. But the main two was the Liberal and the NIP that merged, and that third one. But the third one, and that was what brought about the UDP indeed.
No,
When you look at what they believed in then, I don't find much differences from whatever they are propagating today. The problem I find generally, and I'm talking again of political parties as they exist today, I don't find them to be too ideologically oriented. They are not anchored. For example,
the other one was the PDM.
PDM.
Yes.
It is PDM. That is the one with the Baliware and Dean and them.
Yes.
That's right.
And they were more sponsored by US. It was more the US.
Yes, because Ware had come back from the US, and he came with some US thinking, and Dean and him joined up. Then you had the Ghost Knight, and then you had Harry Lawrence and
the mayor, your mayor Rodriguez. Mayor Rodriguez.
Yeah, Mayor Rodriguez. And the three of them came together.
Paul Rodriguez.
What I find today, when you look at the principles that define the purposes of the movement. For example, I can say for sure what defines the purpose of the PUP. But today, when I look at them, I don't see them sign or exemplifying what was I taught then a philosophical anchor. I'm not seeing it today. So what is happening, let's say, in the UDP now that they're in the chaos they are in? I don't think their division is ideological.
No.
The division is simple one that they believe that the present leader is too arrogant, too high-handed, and is indifferent to others if they're not loyal to him. That is how they seem to be characterizing him.
I think it's simpler than that. I think it's just a pure leadership struggle that they think they should be the leader rather than the other person. I don't think it's much.
You mean a lust for power?
Yeah. I don't think it's.
You could call it. What I know of it, and I spoke to both sides. It was not so much a lust for power. I think it was a case of where they believe that, and when I spoke with the same gentleman there that is looking to challenge Shine, Lee Mark, we know him well. We all know Lee Mark. I mean, he runs in this division too, and he's looking to challenge Shine. Is that correct? In his division,
yeah.
Right. So if they don't have a truce before, there's a challenge coming to him in his own constituency.
Yeah.
And remember, Lee Mark kind of grew up in that area because that's where they had Chosun before originally. So he has a challenge on his hand. And then he has some others, I understand, out west that are also declaring themselves separate from him. So if you look at, so far the court has ruled in favor of Shine because they didn't give the injunction. But the court is yet to hear the case. But when you listen to everything, you listen to the testimony given before the court, it's not really about ideology. It's a simple case that they couldn't get on with each other.
No,
because they thought that he was too arrogant.
Joe, they just released the documentary on Shine. It has had favorable reviews even from some of his critics at home. Is that going to make a difference? Are we going to see maybe a resurgence of the support for Shine?
I doubt it will make a difference because I didn't see the documentary, but I saw 3 interviews done with him, and they were done by some distinguished houses, media houses in America. And he get good rating. I would rate him high, but I heard. No, I haven't seen the documentary car. It was premiered at the Princess, I think, Sunday night. And I think somewhere else. But from what I get from everybody speaking on it, and these are people who have been in the field of filmmaking and, directors and whatnot, and they are giving it a very high rating. So maybe that would have been the thing to help them if they were united. As a leader, that would have probably had helped him. But now with this division, and I listened to many people when they came out. I wasn't in the show itself, I didn't know they were going to have it. And then when I asked them what they think, and they spoke highly of the documentary.
Is it on YouTube? You could just download it, right? Can't you?
No, it's on Hulu. Hulu, it's you do something on Hulu, but you have to subscribe.
Yeah, you have to be a member. I haven't seen it myself, and I want to see it. I didn't know when the viewing was going to be, which shows that I'm not as good a friend to Shine as I thought I was. So.
It's silly.
I didn't get no invitation to the thing. But,
well, I saw it.
Oh, you went? You went there?
No, I didn't go, but I saw it here at home.
Okay.
While I was in Houston, and I saw it that Monday when it aired on it premiered, on Hulu. But I have a different outlook or opinion and view, only because this is my position. I grew up in America, so I have seen rags to riches. I have seen marginalized communities, members that come out of these communities make it and do well as an adult. Good example, I am of the era of Snoop Dogg. When I was a teenager, he was a teen as well. So to see his life transform over the last 30 years, I understand. I understand where he is. So for me, it's like it was one of those stories. Like we have another kid out of a marginalized community that that made it, and only this time this specific one made it. He's into politics. Where others have ventured into community service and community advocacy and activism. So for me, it was just like, okay, so I'm not saying that it was not positive, but here is where I found, I found, and I'm going to be, and I know I'm going to get grief for it, but I will say it. I don't see how his American lifestyle could be compared or matched with the young men in Belize. First of all, there is no talent in Belize that there is someone out there that will pay them the kind of money off the streets like Mr. Barrow had that opportunity. The opportunities that Mr. Barrow had at 19 years of age is not going to happen to any one of those young men in a Belize city or a Orange Walk or anywhere in Belize in those communities. That is.
He had to bring something to the table too. Now he had to bring some talent.
He brought talent.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. But he brought his talent, that type of talent, and was paid for that talent. And that's where, and his trajectory is what led him to today. What I'm saying is, I don't see him being able to do that, or could be in comparison to that of our young men in Belize. If it would have been someone out of Belize, stayed in Belize, lived in Belize, and not moved away, then I think it would be more embraced. I don't see how how we could embrace that, or how we could be embraced when they're two different lifestyles, two different communities. They don't share. Those young boys in Belize don't share the same lifestyle as the youths growing up in America.
I hear what you're saying, but I do see from the point of his perspective and his life that he has gumption, he has a determination, he has a commitment to whatever it is that drives him. And that, I think, is translated to wherever you are and whoever you are, whether you're in the United States or you're in Belize. And I think that he could impart to young people.
I agree with what you're saying, Gregory. I'm just saying it from outside.
We hear you, but the point also has to be made that there are many other young people that went to America and grew up in America. Mm-hmm. And he was a shining example coming through of doing something profitable. Let me see it. I don't know, because if you go look at rap and wonder if it's constructive or not, because many of the things he's talked about sometimes too was the same shoot 'em up kind of move, no?
Yeah.
But he did do this. He came from a one parent home, which is because his father is Dean Barrow, but of course they had no real relationship growing up. If you listen to him anyway. So I don't know that you can't. I applaud him for that, for having gone over there, made some, and coming from Belize as he did, breaking into an industry in America that exclusively caters to Americans, and it's not easy to break into that,
of course,
that kind of environment there. So
I think
Go ahead, Joe.
I tend to differ also with Lisha on this one, is because I think the moral of the story is that if you are very determined, if you are willing to make sacrifices and apply yourself, yes, you will have some failures, but you have to be resilient. You can bounce back and you can succeed. So to me, his story is one, not necessarily about moving from relative poverty in New York to a musician to jail and then out of jail and become leader of the opposition. I think the story is simply one about your determination, your application in life. And when you could fail, you must be resilient, you must be able to bounce back. So I think the story he gave of his life, I think is one that should be listened to by people generally.
Well, I'll have to say that I am, that I'm not. I enjoyed. Let me make it clear. I did enjoy his story, and what I came out of it was I had a lot more respect for his, for his journey. I do have a lot of respect for his journey, and that I will not discredit. I will not take away from him. And the poise that he has is it's extraordinary. He has a poise about himself, and I don't know how to characterize it, but I love the fact that, as you said, his resilience, his determination, his dedication to even find spiritual guidance outside of what he was taught as a child. Finding an inner peace to be able to conduct himself as a man outside, in the outside world. So again, I do respect his journey. And I would not discredit that at all. I as I've said to everyone before, I don't endorse either of the political parties in Belize, but I do know that if he's bringing something new to his party, I think he's not given the opportunity for him to actually sit down, or maybe he has not allowed the people to get to know him profoundly. And this story, this documentary allows some of that opening of the door, allows that intimate relationship with his people, and the people that he wants to serve. So if Mr. Shine, if you're out there and you're able to put on another show for others to see, what since Hulu is a subscription, allow your people to get to know you a little bit more, and avoid some of the negative criticism or the unknown criticism to those who don't know you.
Send me and Joe invitations. but no, I'm trying though, because I hear you did an about turn there. I'm trying to see what your objection was to what you didn't like. And I hear you say that, all right, it's not the same kind of rags to riches as an American kid coming from the ghetto and getting, but it's even more than that. If I can say that, it's bigger than that, because it's an immigrant child, and that I don't know if you were born there, but when you go to America as an immigrant, there are specific challenges that you have to face, and apparently you overcame that, and breaking into that circle with that group of guys there, you have to display some kind of strength. I have to say that there's much of it that I admire. It's unfortunate that the United Democratic Party is in the position that they're in now, that they're not able. I don't know if it'd have to be a 180. They'd have to that complete turnaround for them to say, you know what, let us embrace Shine. I think they ought to look at it too and see. I see Berlin is on.
Yeah, and she I think she went to the rollout of the Shine Barrow movie, right?
In New York.
Yes.
She went to New York. Hi, Miss Berlin.
Hi everybody.
Good evening, stranger.
No,
Hi, Berlin. Happy Thanksgiving.
Here. No strangers here, in good company.
Happy Thanksgiving, girl.
A happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah. How you doing?
Good, good, good.
All right. What do you think about Shine?
Well, tell us about the rollout of the Hulu presentation. I think you went, right?
Yeah, so yeah, I never miss an opportunity to visit New York, my absolute favorite city, by far.
Walk the red carpet.
But you know, it was really it was I was really happy to attend. I've known Shine actually. I think the first time we met might have been in '98 at the CARICOM Games, and at that time was the beginning of, you know, his entry into hip hop. So at that time, I think there was a bidding war. Of course, he was an unknown. There was really no like huge introduction into the hip hop world at the time. He just, you know, blasted on the scene. And then, of course, we know it was short lived. But to see the full story in its totality was very interesting. For me, I don't think that I learned anything new. I've always known him to be a resilient person. Um, and so I was really happy to be there to really just see how well his story has been told. I think there are a lot of different parts of his story that would resonate with different people for different reasons, right? Um, if you think about the arc of almost the best stories that are told in the world, there's a hero's journey, right? So if you're familiar with that, if you think about, I would say any major story, Star Wars, Merlin,
The
um,
Godfather.
yeah, Godfather, there's always you start out on this journey and you meet a mentor and there is some tragedy or something that you need to overcome. There's a death, there is a search in the wilderness, there is a rebirth, and there's a return, right?
And
Where
there's
you come
money.
back with the and where you come back with the gauntlet, right? And so his story, I think, resonates with the human story of all the different, you know, archetypes in terms of a struggle and overcoming.
The,
So that
the thing,
his character can almost anybody can think about something they've struggled with and identify with it. So I thought it was beautifully done, wonderfully told. And for me specifically, I think what I really liked was he didn't shy away from the parts that could be,
Yeah.
if you're telling your own story, you could kind of leave it out, right? And so that was one of the
and we
things
don't
that,
know what he really left out because there might be some that he might have left out indeed, no?
well, in terms of the fullness of the story, of course, the story isn't finished, right? But the fullness of the story in terms of parts that we wouldn't know or parts that you know of and he didn't have to say were done in there, particularly the part where when he lost his voice, right? And that losing of voice is very symbolic, right? And of course I'm a literature student, so I saw a lot of symbolism in it that was beyond what was actually, you know, happening. But the losing of the voice was major because that's a low point, right? His voice really was what made him relevant. And just the fact that we were in New York and the setting, New York is the city that they say if you make it here, you could make it anywhere. And to see him being celebrated in New York at that level was, I'll tell you, it was big. It was big.
Do you think that, given all that you've seen and all that has transpired with Shine, he would be able to, if given a chance, make a good leader?
Well, leadership is very tough, and leadership in Belize might be, my opinion, even more of a challenge, right? Because we're a complicated set of people.
But does Shine have the tools to do it?
Listen, if you make it in New York, you can make it anywhere. I don't know what being in, I don't remember it, Sing Sing. I don't remember the name of the institution, but there are several places that he's been that it will test you. And if you can make it out there, I wouldn't count. Let's just say I wouldn't bet against you.
I've done that. When I hear that people says or he says that he has spent 10 years, I look at his composure and I said, he has done remarkably well in maintaining that presence.
Oh yeah, he could have broken him.
Yeah.
In fact, for every success story like that, there are countless others. In fact, an infinite number more that did not make it. That was broken somewhere along the way, gave up along the way, that was defeated, and you never hear from them again. He has stood strong.
Yes.
And I don't know.
And he seemed that he have educated himself along the way.
Yes, indeed.
He's well spoken. He seems very thoughtful.
I don't think he wasted his time in prison at all. I think he And I remember an old guy once told me when I did a short stint, he says, son, you do the time, you don't let the time do you. I think he did his time and the time did not do him, and he came out of it much better than he went in. And sometimes some people need a little break like that, away from everything else, to be able to
compose themselves.
Yes.
Because some people are going on a fast track, and sometimes something like that gives them a moment of pause and gives them a way of
Well,
go ahead.
Demonstrated resilience in the sense that to be there incarcerated for 10 years, come out and not being a broken man, but even more determined to continue the journey that you are on. But there's one thing we need to accentuate. He didn't go into jail for robbery.
Yeah.
He didn't go into jail because
he
went into jail because of some misunderstanding they had at that nightclub.
And being loyal to his friend.
He was not known to be no bad boy in its literal sense. But to me, when he went to prison, it's not that he needed to be reformed. But what he did, he took advantage of the time and educated himself and made himself better prepared that when he comes out, he continues his journey to success.
Yes.
Yeah. We interviewed him on this show. I find him to be cool, calm in his delivery, thoughtful, and yes, intelligent. He seems to know what he's talking about and has his eyes set on his goal. I am impressed with him. And I think given a chance, he would make a good leader, but I don't think he's going to be given a chance. And that's the unfortunate thing.
Well, I'll tell you something. He could be a leader and he could take over that party, but he'll have to remake that party. He will have to.
That's it. That's what he's been trying to do, Gregory. That's what they're not going to let him do.
Give him time, because I think the people that are challenging him right now have one option, and it's now. And if he maintains some discipline and continue on a path of rebuilding the party in his image, I think it could make a difference for him. That's the only way. That's the only way for him to do it. But it will take money. I think he may have crossed some bridges when he kind of criticized a bit about his former what do you call it, protege.
P. Diddy?
P. Diddy, yeah.
Mm.
But you know, in terms of some funding that could have flowed his way, he have his own problems right now, and we don't know how he will resolve that. But it may have offended some of the other people that supported him in that regard. But I think if he remakes that party in the image, and if he's clear-minded and he's focused and he's really true to what he says he wants to do, and I think one thing, he kind of rushed the ball, and he could have watched some of this other stuff played out before jumping in and trying to grab the leadership, because he's a young man and he could have outlasted many of those people and build slowly. But you know, youth has a sense of eagerness, and I must have it now. And I think that challenged him, and it put him.
So I want to interrupt. I want to interrupt and correct you there.
Okay.
I don't think that characterizing it as he jumped the gun and rushed for leadership would be accurate, right? There were several instances where he was pushing other people to the forefront and say, hey, you know, go ahead and lead. And nobody took it up. So at that point, well, here's a path, and I'm not one to sit around and wait. So, you know, with that thinking, he went ahead and went for leadership. So I don't know if I would say that he was eager, because I remember when they were looking to shift away from Patrick, that Tracy would have been up next. You know, it could have been anybody else.
But wasn't
I don't
she?
think that he's the one that said, oh, me, I'm next. It was when nobody wanted to step up.
Well, now let's look at Tracy now, and compare Tracy to Shine as far as leadership qualities. Would you say that Tracy matches? I mean, notwithstanding the fact she's a woman, and that in itself, many people will tell you they believe it's time for a woman to lead. But apart from that, can we look at the character of the two individuals and make an assessment as to which would be the better leader going forward for the UDP?
I do believe that it's time for a woman, but I don't see the quality of leadership and the strength of leadership in that individual. And so I think I defer to someone else that could speak up, because first thing, a leadership, especially for a country, that person needs to be out there making the case for your nation every single day to the international forum. And I don't see that quite from that lady. Maybe she has it somewhere and she hasn't quite displayed it yet, but I haven't seen it. So I don't think she matches his enthusiasm, his energy, or his capacity to speak up and address the
core issues.
The issues for the nation.
I think the Shine Barrow exemplify more the trying a transformational leadership, in the sense of, I think he's a more visionary person. Listening to him, like you said, eloquent, he's articulate. I think one of his failures as a leader, from what I saw in him and in talking with him, is that he needs to be a little bit more pragmatic and balance his doctrines and tenets with pragmatism. He made an action that I thought was, he told me it's well principled. I told him, well, yes, it's a principled position you are taking, but you are the leader of a movement, and you need to balance that principle.
Concern of the party.
The proper political course, you're saying, Joe.
Right.
He's not political enough.
That's right. So
is he too honest?
It can't be about you always and your feelings.
Yeah, the political acumen, which I think would have been needed. So I say, when you match them, there is no doubt that he displayed to me more the type of visionary type person. Now, when they gone to do what they did, to call that convention, and now they went to the court, and Shine and his group sought into an injunction, and they won the injunction. And I read the judgment. It's not a very long judgment, but what was brought out in the judgment is that they had gone in August 23 to a convention
Correct.
It was a legitimate legal convention. And they passed a resolution that they will stay with him as leader until after the election. So when you pass a resolution is like a contract. You have agreed to certain things. It's a quid pro quo. So you could not just simply decide that, well, listen, yes, you had certain things you are not pleased with. Perhaps you needed to take another approach to try to at least work it out. But to take the approach which the court did not uphold. The hearing is not yet, they only went for the injunction. But the court pointed out that how come you could have passed that resolution in August 23? I know you seem to want to go against the resolution. And he made very other points, but in the end, he ruled in favor of the injunction. I know the case is to be hard, no?
At the end of the day, Joe, was it written in stone? And if they got the various delegates that passed the resolution to come back and say, we rescind that, they change your mind, is there something to be said about that?
Yeah, it's a violation of the principle of the rule of law. In other words, you have a contract. Once you have signed a contract, you have to perform certain things. One is to perform this and the other is to do that. So when you pass a resolution, the resolution is tantamount to a contract. You cannot just simply break the contract and claim that because it's because of the numbers that went and there were delegates. No, that could happen. What he did, he took the constitution of the UDP and he took the relevant sections to show where they were violating what he saw as the sections. But the case itself, the substantive case, the merit of it is yet to be heard. But he did rule in favor of they must remove themselves and allow the executive of Shrine Barrow, the leader, to go back and continue to manage and have possession and use the building. So I thought that for her to have made that move, and then, I mean, you should not have made that move. You shouldn't have.
Yeah.
A little premature and not fully thought out because, for one thing, I think they didn't have the resources to continue the TV station and the maintenance of the building. They didn't have any resources, so it was kind of a let's do this, let's grab this and see what happens without thinking how the management and ongoing providing for that would be accomplished.
Imagine you are going to the court. The applicant, which is the Shine Group, had their lawyer. So they went as the respondent, but never take a lawyer. But at the hearing, the lady, Lawyer Pitts, I don't think it was you, Ms. Berlin.
No.
She asked the court if they could allow her to be a Latin word they use as amicus curiae. So evidently, she could not have asked for that at that point in time, and the court explained it's a Latin word they use that you want to bring something to the court that will advance the court in making a judgment. So all they had to do instead was to let her claim that she is representing them. That's all. But that is amicus curiae. And they couldn't. So again, they had to turn her down. So they had no defense. Tracy had to speak on her own behalf, on behalf of the rest. So it showed you that you need them. You need all of them because Tracy can probably win the Albert if they were united. Farber can probably win his division if they are united. You have a chance. So to me, it would have been better if they could have just hold together.
So they still have a chance to do that.
Yeah. What happens now? They go back to convention after the elections again, and then can Shine run again as for leader?
Yeah, because they have signed, they passed a resolution. The court is yet to hear the merits, but the court has already put an injunction, which is indicating to you that the court had to act, and they get the reason why it had to act, because the damage it could have caused if it doesn't act. And they acted. Now, this case may come up before the election. The election could be another 3-4 months. So I would have thought that the better thing to do was to do not go to that convention. Continue to be making demands for us to come together and control from within. You could do it. You can. If you were the leader as you are claiming to want to be, then you have to come with certain acumen. You have to come with certain strategies and certain leadership skills. So your leadership at that point, to me, in an internal strife, was not good because you are committing suicide.
Joe, what's the wise thing to do from your point of view? What would you do if you were in a position of making a decision for the PUP? Call election now that you have them on their heels, or wait and see what plays out with the courts? Which one would you do?
One thing I would not do is call the election simply because I believe that they are done and out.
Yeah.
I believe that you do it if you feel indeed that there was a chance of you not winning. Even if they were to get together, it's very difficult for them to be able to do what needs to be done to win the support of those amount of voters out there. So to me, I wouldn't be intimidated by, as if they were a strong party, if they were making inroads, and you have to be conscious that you have made some slips. No, you have to strike when it's in your favor. Because the longer you wait, and the longer the transgression mature and become more and more effective, you stand the chance of losing. So you call the election. Well, I believe the calling of it, if they do, and it's very likely, I think it's simple to say, well, let's go for another mandate and move on.
I hear you. Berlin, did you come and you were talking about anything, or was there a specific? Because I didn't want to sidetrack what you were.
No, nothing specific. But
right,
I agree with Mr. Coy's assessment, and I think that it's in their best interest, both Tracy and Shine, to find some way to broker a deal and try and unify.
All right.
And because, if elections, if it's called, then Shine has to lead them into the next elections. And then if he fails, right, then the right thing to me to do then would be to step aside, give somebody else a chance to lead at that point. Tracy, to me, then needs to be shadowing and needs to be prepping herself to take leadership, not to strong leadership away right now.
Yeah, she's declared
it's the lead together.
She has declared herself the leader. What does she do now then?
She needs to broker a deal so that they can be unified.
Yeah, deputy leader.
Can she do that? Is she humble enough to make that move?
I don't think it's her. I think she's being pushed to where she's at right now. I don't see it all as her.
Who would be behind her?
Don't you see the Patrick and don't you see the Saldiva behind her?
There's to me that's clear.
I don't think anybody is really behind her. Otherwise, you would have seen them.
Somebody there behind her.
I don't think anybody is behind her. I think they are side by side.
That's another story.
She might be dragging them along. I don't know. I don't know. And I'll tell you what, though, because if you're talking about a new faces and changes within that party, Shine is the newer face, and the only change I'm seeing of the crowd that I'm seeing them put forward, that I see just a bunch of recycled has been there, done that crowd, no? So I don't know. Let's switch gears if you allow me.
Mr. Chairman, before you go on, I wanted Verlene to just tell us, you talked to your sister, I'm sure. I wanted to know how the celebration went for Settlement Day, and then how you guys in Florida, the diaspora celebrating Thanksgiving, if there's some differences. Yeah.
So for November 19th, just before the pandemic, in South Florida, we started, celebrating, and it was well attended. Pandemic came, kind of did a hiatus, and this year, a group got together and they actually did a Yurume. It was really beautiful. I wasn't able to attend. I'm like an hour drive away from Miami. And so I didn't go, but I saw it online and it was well done. So hopefully next year I'll be able to attend.
And I was going to say that also when they do the Garifuna celebration, it seems like they get people from other countries that are Garifuna, part of that Garifuna community. So it's not just people from
Yes.
Belize, right?
Correct, because South Florida does not have a particularly large Garifuna community. There are more Hondurans here in South Florida. And so Garifuna Nation really is borderless, right? We don't think of each other as you're from Guatemala, you're from Honduras, you're from Nicaragua, you're from St. Vincent. There's a friend that I have, Bacchus, Anthony Bacchus, and he is from St. Vincent. And he does a lot of work in Palm Beach. So there's a lot of drumming that happens, and he's getting reconnected with the Garifuna culture because in St. Vincent there's a huge disconnect. So he's putting the dots together. But yes, in South Florida, you have a lot of people from Honduras, but readily join with the celebrations. I don't know what date they typically celebrate Settlement Day in Honduras, but in Belize it's the 19th. In Guatemala it's the 26th of November. And so those that are from Guatemala in South Florida join in. And of course, because the community is so small, you can actually trace your roots. So as a child, once I saw Roots, the actual movie, I did a journey with my parents. We left Belize, went to Guatemala, which is where my mom was born, and my dad's family is from. So we had both sides of the family where we met relatives, and then they had stories of who came from Nicaragua. My great grandfather was from Bluefields. And so we went to Nicaragua, heard stories there, went to Honduras. So that journey is an interesting journey. And so it's always good when you can see, the culture is the same throughout, regardless of what country you're representing.
Do they speak
That's very
pretty
true.
much the same the across the different regions?
Yes, yes. There's some slang words that are different. But
Is it an African language they speak, or is it just a unique Garifuna language?
so it is
Broken.
Arawak, it's Carib Indian, it is a little bit of French, and an African dialect. So it's mixed. It's a mix of a number of things. The first numbers from 1 through 10 is exactly the way you say 1 through 10 in French. So people from Haiti here, when they're counting, it's the exact same thing.
Now, tell me something, because you said that you don't see each other as being from Honduras or Guatemala or Belize, but as being a part of the Garifuna nation. Now, how do you reconcile that with patriotism and Belizeanness, and what do you how do you prioritize the culture or the Belizeanness?
I would say that you may think of yourself first as Garifuna, because Garifuna is not just it's similar to being a Jew, right? You're a Jew wherever you are in the world, right? Nobody can take that away. And so that is a unique identifier that transcends anything else, right? Garifuna Doe is something where I always laugh about it, because I remember the first time my kids heard the Garifuna drum beating. And I remember my oldest, Harlem, his face, like he was in awe of this beating of this drum. And I immediately recognized that you could have put him in Timbuktu and he would have known that call of that drum, that there is something in his essence, in his being, that resonates for him.
Isn't that true for all Black people, particularly African?
I don't know, right? I can't say, but I know, right, that I would never look at my cousins in Guatemala and think of them as Guatemalans. I would never. I mean, my mom was born in Guatemala, half my family, right? So that whole Belize Guatemala dispute is not something that you think about in that way. I am very Belizean, 100% Belize. I'm not going to allow a Guatemalan to say this stuff we or we. There's a clear Belize has its territorial integrity, but I think there's no. It's like asking me if I think of myself as a woman first or as a Black person. Right? There's an intersectionality, and there's you it's your essence. You can't separate and say, oh, this takes priority.
You mentioned the comparison with like the Jews, that wherever they are there. Would you like to see also a homeland as they created over there in Palestine? Would you say, well, maybe the Garinaga go need to get a homeland somewhere, and that we can call your homeland?
So I don't think that we would need to get one, because we see St. Vincent as the homeland, right? So there's a trip that goes to St. Vincent every year. And we work closely with the government of St. Vincent. And so if you're familiar with Aquaba, which happens in Ghana, where it's like a coming home, the government has actually used it as a way for tourism. And so there's a welcome back. You find out, you can do your DNA and find out what tribe you come from and all that. So there's something similar in St. Vincent.
So they are welcoming to Garinaga that live abroad. The St. Vincent government?
Anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
Anywhere in the world. You will contact the government. They actually structure the trips so that you can go to specific places. I actually think that it should be something that we do in Belize, in Honduras, in Guatemala, and it should actually follow the route.
Now, Sam is saying that most Garifuna only have 10% to 15% Garifuna DNA. Now, let me speak on that, because
you mean indigenous? You mean the Carib Arawak DNA?
But I'm wondering, because where would you trace that DNA to? The Arawak Indians, the Black Caribs, or the Caribs?
Actually, on my 23andMe, it shows up as 23%, and it shows that it's specifically from the Amazon and in St. Vincent. So it shows you, it grays out the area, and it tells you that it's Carib Indian and Arawak Indian.
Okay, so, all right. Interesting that you have. I mean, I'm sure you've done a lot of work in establishing that identity, and certainly, I hope though that at some point we look at Belize as this multi-ethnic melting pot of cultures and move together as one people, intermingling and working together.
I think that's what has happened in Belize. Really, right now, I'm seeing a segmentation with this whole the controversy or fake controversies, I guess, of Shine being in front of the Maya temple, and then recently with Miss Belize. I think that we could kind of get things all muggled up and all that, just jumping on controversy after controversy.
How do you feel about the Maya's point of view that they should be given that large area in Toledo and consider that their exclusive property as such? Do you think we should go down that road?
Honestly, no, definitely not. I think that we don't have room for that in Belize. I think it's divisive. And I think that unity is much better than going down that route. But I do understand the view of how indigenous people look at land. And so there's a specific amount of respect that we need to give to each other based on our culture of how we view land. And indigenous people don't see land with borders and ownership, right? But I think that the Mayas are split on that too, right?
Well, they're split on where they're indigenous too, also, I believe, because many, we understand, came across from Guatemala, as some of your folks did. And so where would they consider themselves indigenous too?
But I think when we get specific and we're talking about indigenous, we're talking about the region, right? We're not talking about indigenous specifically to Belize.
We have borders now, though.
Yes, but this is indigenous people actually don't see borders. I think that's where that distinction happens.
We had Ariel on from the Mesquite people. Mosquito that had the same kind of concept, and we could understand that, but we have to recognize that we live in the 21st century, and back in the 14th century they made the terrible mistake of creating ownership and parceling land, and so that's the task we have today, and that's what we have to go from. We cannot roll it back. There's no way that we could roll it back to what it was before, and still maintain a viable society.
All right, let me go. Now let's look at American politics for a bit. Trump, Berlin, how you feel about Trump? Not going away yet. Yeah, we want to talk to you tonight.
Because as soon as I said Trump, everybody I said, well, the gal hang up as soon as they hear
Trump. As soon as I Trump, you're gone. Yeah.
But my phone will hang up, so I'll run get my charger.
All right. Oh, okay, wonderful. Yeah, man. Well, Greg, Trump is now president.
Yes, we do have President Trump for a second term. I hope it's a kinder, gentler Republican Party. We don't know what we'll get.
I don't know, though. I'm watching some of the names that are being nominated to serve in his cabinet.
Yeah, we have to remember the true limitation of presidency. This country is structured in a way that things may roll in a way, but the what you see on the face of things, but to move the wheels of government and to make some of the changes that not even President Trump himself is forecasting, but what some of the people from 25andMe or whatever they call it, that program are advocating. Many of those things, even Republican Congress people are not going to let those things go through because it would be disruptive to even their way of making money and even the entire society. And I think in the end, Congress, the House comes up every 2 years for election, and usually the party that wins at this point, especially the presidency, usually lose seats in the upcoming half-year election. So there's a lot to be cautious about on their part, and so I don't think a lot of the things that people are thinking are going to happen and are set to happen is actually ever going to be even anyway seen as viable options for the American people.
You have faith that the system will be able to keep him in check, even if he gets these outlandish ideas?
I believe that. I believe, and I believe that. I believe that.
Yeah,
I always think President Trump is a practical, pragmatic businessman. So I believe that.
Berlin, how about
Berlin, charge up, one of the charger.
Let's go, Berlin. Did you hear that, Berlin?
I don't know if I would use pragmatic as a descriptor for the man. I don't know if I would use businessman even for the man. I'm in Palm Beach. I am about 2 stones throw away from Mar-a-Lago. And listen, honestly, there are two groups of people to me that believe in Trump's abilities, and for different reasons, right? So you have the super wealthy who they will have access and they will be able to garner favor, and he will make policies and put things in place where they
He's a
can
dealer.
accumulate
He's a
more
dealer.
wealth, right? So it's beneficial for them. You can't vex.
That's
I
true.
think there's also a group of people who, because of the way America is, America has a lot of your psyche thinking that one day I too can be super wealthy. And so I want things set up so that if I were in that position and I was super wealthy, there's certain things that will not stop me, right? So there's an aspirational psyche that happens that I think that people who are not in a wealthy position or middle class start to think, yeah, of course, if I had a lot of money, this is how I would want things. So these two ends actually gravitate and pull towards him. I think what happened in this election, I think that the Democrats read the room incorrectly and thought that all the outlandish things that he did in the past and that he can possibly do would have resonated with people. And they missed the fact that inflation is burning into people's pockets, regardless of where you are, right? The middle class, I think, complained a lot about inflation, and Democrats were talking more about identity politics, right? They were talking more about what the right labeled as woke. And so the things that Democrats really care about, um, freedom of your right to choose, um, the integrity of elections, democracy, all that stuff was just like mwah, 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 mwah to people, because when they go to the grocery store, they notice the difference. Before, you could spend $200 and get a whole cart full of groceries. Now you spend $200 and you can actually walk out of the grocery store
That
with
didn't
like
just
4 bags.
happen. That didn't just happen in 4 years, though, Berlin.
It didn't, but when you don't talk about what it is that you're doing, the Inflation Reduction Act, and people aren't really feeling it and you're ignoring it, then people don't feel like there's a difference. So there's a survey that just came out this week that now you ask people about the economy and how they feel about it, and all of a sudden there's this confidence that they have in the economy, and Biden is still president. So what amounts for the shift in sentiment?
Well, things
The fact
change.
that
That's
they're
what I think.
thinking that Trump will do something different. And this is the thing. The last thing I'll say about the difference is the stock market. The stock market is not the economy, but there are a lot of people who play the stocks, people who play it at a major level. A lot of retired people depend on it. And then there are a lot of young people who are going in there buying crypto, and they're able to go ahead and make money. And so that is a big driver for it. And Republicans have always had the benefit of them affecting the stock market. And so when people don't know that the stock market is a small part of the economy, for them it's a big part, because they're in it, they're playing, you know what I mean? They're at the table and they feel like they're winning. So,
Were you surprised, or did you
oh, I
think?
was shocked.
Yeah, yeah.
I was shocked. I was shocked. I knew that the election was not close,
You were shocked.
Right? But I was shocked that Trump won. I thought that Kamala would have won, but I knew it wasn't close, and I knew that the pundits had it wrong, and that they were saying, "Oh, it's close, it's neck and neck." I'm like, it's not neck and neck. Yard
But
signs
you
tell
thought
a
Kamala
story.
was ahead as opposed to Trump being ahead.
Correct. I did.
Now, don't you think that maybe Kamala spent too much time focusing on Trump and what he was saying and what that person who was, as opposed to expounding on her own values and policies and what she was going to do and not do? Because we heard a lot about eating the dogs and eating the cats and people in Puerto Rico.
But it's unfair. But it's unfair to say she spent time doing that when he did not expose anything that he would. Nobody could tell me what he's going to do. What is he going to do to turn inflation around? What is he going to do differently? All he said is he's going to stop the war. How? Right? Like, he's going to make the economy better. How? Tariffs don't do that, right? So I have yet to see it. But I don't think that Kamala ran a bad campaign. And I think that, there's a lot of data that they relied on that could have been wrong. I think people honestly were ashamed that they were choosing Trump. And so the pundits got it wrong. All the data people got it wrong because people were not truthful with their answers. Listen,
and not only did he win the Electoral College, he won a majority
popular
vote, which is unprecedented for probably the last 5 Republican presidents, since back to Nixon.
Which was the best case scenario? Because I personally believe America dodged a bullet, because there was a possibility of a serious civil war had that election been indeed close.
It was never close, though. It was never close.
Well, it wasn't close, but I'm saying the fact that you thought Kamala would win shows that in that regard it was close enough for it to go the other way.
No. I thought that she would win by as much as how Trump won. I just saw it flipped. But this is the thing. People don't understand now that we are in echo chambers, right? So my information that I'm getting is an algorithm that just pushes more and more of that stuff to me.
Stop listening to MSNBC.
Well, that's a good point. On CNN. Yeah.
No. I listen to NPR. No. I listen to NPR. But because I know that the algorithm will push to you what it is that you are consuming, and it will give you more and more of it.
Yeah.
My husband and I would drive around Palm Beach just to kind of get a sense of who's where and who's, where people are. And we would drive to the super wealthy neighborhoods, middle class. We're driving around just to get a sense, because yard signs tell a story. There were not a lot of yard signs.
Yeah. People, like you said, people are ashamed to put the Trump yard sign, and they didn't put the Kamala yard sign, but they were ashamed to put the Trump yard sign.
They didn't put any, people didn't show their hands. In my neighborhood, there was one yard sign that I saw. And it was Harris Walz. And then I know, like, when we do our walk around the neighborhood, there was somebody that had an F. Biden huge flag in their garage.
I saw quite a few of those.
But in Palm Beach, like if I go to West Palm Beach, people had flags on their trucks, and this is like years before. This year, none of it. And a lot of those people from January 6th, like before that happened, I remember seeing parades, like trucks, big trucks, right? Driving with these flags flying in the back, and obnoxiously big flags, like, I don't want to say Hitler flags, but that's like it reminiscent of that nonsense.
Do you think if your hope or prediction had come true, and the victory would have been Kamala as opposed to Trump, that the transition would have been smooth like it is now?
Who knows? We'll never find out.
Yeah.
Man. Sorry. Oh.
Yeah, go ahead, Joe. That's you. You
I want to have my say on this.
Yeah.
So, first of all, I want to agree with the lady. With everything she said, I fully support. But I will come down and tell you why the election went the way it went. Evidently, Kamala Harris, when it comes to defining her plan for the future, the economic plan in particular, 85-page opportunity economy. Yes, I am trained in economics, and I thought that it was excellent. 60% or 60 of the Nobel Prize winner in the United States saw Kamala Harris' plan as far better than what Trump had. Trump never even had a plan. When they ask him about the plan, he said he has a concept.
Concepts.
No. If you look at both of them, Kamala Harris was no doubt way ahead in terms of what it needs to be a leader. Why did she lose? That's the question. If you look at the demographics of those 7 states, those swing states, watch the demographics of it. Watch how it went, because that's where she lost.
Yeah. Michigan.
Watch among blacks, Latinos, and on college graduates. It went towards Trump more than it was the last time, and that's where he won.
Yeah.
No, how come of all these things that Kamala have demonstrated in terms of her character, her experience, her leadership skills, despite that she lost? I agree with some of the experts, and I am one of those experts who can tell you I understand politics fairly well because I've been in it for over 40 years myself. They have a thing what they call the burden of choice. The burden of choice is what can bring a dictator to power, just as they did with Stalin and Hitler and all of them. Trump was well positioned in taking advantage of those who did not take on the responsibility of the burden of choice. And that burden of choice in politics is what makes democracy robust. If you are not prepared to get yourself informed, if you are not prepared to get data, factual data, to make good decisions, a person like Trump will definitely triumph. So what he had to do, all Trump had to do was this, simple. Don't worry, I can fix it. We will take care of the inflation. Don't worry about the abortion. The women will be able to do what they want. And he said that over and over, and it was not more than that he said. And they believed him.
But not, did he say that he would
Yes.
not? He would.
He said it.
But,
And when they asked him for his plan, they
Yes.
asked him, well, listen, let us hear what you have. He said, well, he has a concept.
Concepts.
but he did say he was going to bring back Roe versus Wade. Did he?
Yes, he did. He said he is the
Yes.
father of in vitro of IVF. He said he's the father of it. He made people think that the worries that you have about that, no worries.
But
I'll tell you, I don't have a problem with what the Supreme Court has done in sending back Roe versus Wade to the states. I believe that that's where those decisions should be made within.
No, sir.
That's my belief, within the states and not at the federal level by the courts. If they want to do it, federalization it, then let Congress pass the law that authorize or give the rights to abortion, not the court, not the Supreme Court.
I think a moral issue. I don't know how you get to
I want to. You said that thing with the, do that to me right now. I wouldn't mind talking about it again. But that's gone. He gone, and what happened? No doubt, when it comes to abortion, Kamala got more votes and that issue that he did. But that was not enough to take. Yeah, he did. No.
She did.
Let me come back to something. I gave you what I thought was the burden of choice that brought Trump in. A man like Trump can win, our environment, where too many people refuse to take on the burden of choice to make decisions. But now let's go to the stage now where he has won. Another thing that I look at, and I side right here in Belize, in my own party, look to see who he will be appointing for his cabinet, and you want to know what kind of man he is, or person, or what he intends to do.
But we can see it already.
No,
we see
look at
something.
them. Look at them. He's not looking at the
Competence.
competence, and if he does, he makes sure he doesn't think about integrity. He doesn't think about ethics. What he wants is loyalty.
Loyalty, yes.
That's what he wants.
Joe, there are two things that you're missing, though, when you look at Kamala.
But in politics, leadership need loyalty.
Yes,
Not
but not
to the
in,
leader. to the people.
administration,
That's
not when you're administering for.
Two things. Two
politics
things.
is not to the leader, it's to the citizens.
I think you missed two things
Absolutely.
in your
Like we had
statement.
him there, man.
Am I muted? You missed two things because Sam was pointing out that Gaza played a role, and there are two things about Kamala. Number one, that the wars that they were involved in, and number two, for 3.5 years as vice president, she was basically silent. And in fact, I don't know how she made such a, just because they switched from Biden to her, then gave him a boost of popularity, but at the end of the day, she was not really a popular person.
Let me give you the double standard then. What you are doing now, you are giving me reason to justify the double standard that those voters will never want to take on the responsibility that is made. Every time Kamala is being questioned, it's about infinity, about everything that went wrong. When Trump, nothing question about it. So let's come back to the point that you made. Sorry, I just missed it. You were saying that the
wars played a role, and the fact that she was
to say that
low key.
Kamala was low key. Every vice president is low key.
No, Dick Cheney wasn't. Dick Cheney was
And all of them were, because the president. You are not the person to be high profile. So to me, Kamala.
No, but at least you can make your presence felt.
No, that's not your job, G-Man. That's not your job.
Name me what is it that you felt that they never make her president felt that she should have.
But you could say it was Biden's fault that he did not give her responsibility for high-profile projects.
No, man. What did Pence do as Trump's vice president?
Exactly.
Yeah, but that's not fair comparison.
Vice presidents do not call the shots.
Of course they don't call the shots.
And I have to second what Mr. Cole said.
And it's a very important position.
Very important, but is Mr. Chairman, if you look at the history, and that was pointed out over and over in this election and before.
Did you hear about Kamala before the election? Before she was in
Absolutely.
I did that Kamala was in the primary. Kamala was well known before. Remember,
she was not known from her time in California as a dean and whatnot, but certainly not as she was
well known as a senator.
She was a senator.
That's afterthought.
No, that's not afterthought. Listen,
when she ran, let me give you something in California. When Kamala ran first for the AG for California, she barely make it. She went back, and when she went back, she won big. Then she gone and ran for the Senate, and she won big. Kamala is well known as one of the top prosecutors in America.
She's actually the most qualified person to have ran for president. The most qualified
there are
person.
Questions about her performance as prosecutor, and some of the people that were sent to jail that the people felt didn't deserve to go to jail. So everything was in that.
But you understand,
you guys are painting a rosy picture of Kamala.
Kamala never sent anybody to jail. Again,
I can't allow you to say that about Kamala,
Mr. Chairman. That was a propaganda made against her. She never sent anybody to jail.
She's a prosecutor. She's not the one doing the sentencing.
No, but you can say that, but wait a minute. No, man.
She's not the one that's making the laws.
I'll tell you what I believe. A lot of Black people believe that when she was prosecutor here, she didn't give considerations for what she's know has been the inherent injustice in viewing and prosecuting Black people. And so that's why she didn't get a roving support among Black men in California.
That's not true either, though.
That's true. Go ahead.
Painting a rosy picture after the fact.
That's not true because if you look at the exit polls,
I was brought up before the election, Mr. Chairman.
If you look at the exit polls, Black men voted for Kamala. So it is not true. They need to stop saying that about Black men.
She got 80% of the Black vote, but that 20% made the difference. That
She did
that
lose some of-
40%, that
She
But
did
that
40%
20% was more than voted for Trump the previous election.
Yeah,
She did lose-
that
she did
40%
lose some of the black vote, but
made
you
the
know where she
difference.
lost? You know where she lost? I have the listing of the demographics. I have the data right here with me. When she lost some of the black votes, but you know where he lost them with men?
Yeah.
It was those men who don't believe that women can lead.
No, it
Exactly.
wasn't on that
No,
basis.
don't go there.
Exactly.
Don't go
It
there.
wasn't on that
Don't go
basis.
there.
But the
Don't go
exit,
there.
polls,
Don't
the
go
exit
there.
polls was showing that.
There are two things that was brought up there that I think that it's not as
100%.
important as you've made them out to be. One, that the color is skin, and the next, the agenda.
She
Which
never
is certainly-
ever
it certainly
highlighted
factored
any
in
of
with
those things.
some voters, but not a lot.
She never highlighted the fact that she's a woman. She never highlighted the fact that she's a person of color. That was
She
not
didn't have to. Everybody else did.
because it's obviously visual. But she did not put that as part of her campaign, which is markedly different from
right.
Hillary Clinton, who
That's
was
right.
saying about the glass ceiling and wanting to go ahead and
That's true.
and rise above it.
Well,
Kamala did not do that.
Not like her, but again, everybody that came up, Obama himself came up and spoke about that men don't want to vote for a woman. He basically, it was a shame game that was being played and it backfired.
But they should be ashamed. They should be ashamed
What for what?
for
Not voting
looking
for a
at her
woman?
as a woman, well qualified.
No, but you
and
want
deciding
qualification. I
that
wouldn't look.
she should not lead.
But Mr. Chairman, the evidence is right there in the statistics in America.
It is.
There are still too many men who cannot muster the courage to vote for a woman.
But Joe,
I
being a
don't think,
woman
I don't
is
think
not-
the competition was between man and woman. I
think so
just simply
either.
don't think
It was
that-
not between a man and a woman, but within certain minds of men.
Being
were
a
there,
woman,
and they still remain there.
being
Agreed.
a woman, and just being a woman is not big enough reason to vote for a
Nobody
person for
said that.
president.
Nobody
No,
said
no,
that.
no,
But
we're
it
not
shouldn't be
saying
a
that.
disqualifier
You don't
either.
vote- I wouldn't vote for her because she's a woman. No, but I would not vote against her
I
because
mean,
she's
I
a
would like
woman.
disqualify her because she's a woman, but I would look at the personality of the two of them. I don't know.
G. Mike, let me just say this,
Look for their
and then I
qualifications.
won't comment on it any further because it's hard to convince people. But I'll tell you this: her and Trump had two different exams. Every single time they were questioned, her bar was here and
That's
Trump's
right.
bar was here. They
Terrible.
were taking two different exams, and we expected perfection from her.
That's right.
And I'll tell you, as a woman and a person of color living in America, you cannot be mediocre. You have to be excellent.
And
You
wasn't
have
she?
to be excellent.
Wasn't
That's
she?
the bar.
I think she was excellent. I think she got beat in spite of that.
And was Trump excellent? No, he was not.
All
He
right,
is
so
as
Why was
mediocre
she
as they
beaten?
come.
Why was she beaten if she was excellent and Trump wasn't?
I don't know.
The burden of choice.
No, there are many factors. There are a lot of different factors. Joe,
If this
Well,
was
what is
excellent,
burden of choice? Of course, it's a burden. If one made one choice, it's the choice of one over the other.
Mr.
Yes.
President, Mr. Chairman, what this election brought out is what I call a dark side of America. It did.
100%.
I have
I don't-
never,
I don't
I have
think
followed,
you-
I
I
have
don't
followed
think you-
American politics for many, many years. I read about them, I follow all of them. I was involved in some of them when I was in California. The point I want to make to you, Mr. Chairman, you read about Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris was one of the best qualified nominee ever come to the office. Dr. Thing. Very qualified lady.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know what she said and what in knock off her? In the first instance, apparently they were trying to get her to condemn Biden. Well, not really condemn her outright.
Condemn the wars anyway.
Distance
Well, it
herself
is-
from him.
She told her that she does not support what the Israelis are doing to the Palestinians, and that she will go for a two country policy.
She said the two parties, the two
And
states.
then
She, said it, though. She didn't say she did not. She did not say that. She did not say that she
She
did not
did.
didn't
She
support
did.
Israel.
She
did
did,
not
G-Mike.
say
Yes,
no,
she
she
did.
did
She said,
not.
she said
I
she might
listened
support what
for
they were
it.
doing. She
She
said,
I
said
listened
that
for
she's
it.
supporting the two-country policy.
Yes,
She
the
said she wants a
two-state.
two-state
She did say
solution.
she supported the
Right.
two-state
And she
solution.
will not continue to support what they are doing to the Palestinians.
I know
She
she didn't
did
say
say
that.
that,
She didn't go
G-Mike.
that far.
That's
What
it.
is
did
Trump?
not go
G-Mike,
that
tell
far.
me what is
You know
Trump
what
going to
else
do
he said?
different?
You know what else he said, Mr. Chairman?
That's not the point we're arguing here. Don't switch the subject.
And the
Don't-
point that
But
I'm
what is
arguing,
Trump
the
going to
point that I'm
do?
arguing exactly what you are saying. A lot of them deliberately went out to say things that she didn't say. For example, when she told them, all right, I will evidently have to be my policies, not Joe Biden. I am running. You see, and yes, there will be changes. You see, and there will be changes because there are changes of circumstances. But that was a damn good explanation. Yet then they attack him because he never distanced himself from Biden. He said it clearly that obviously it will be her policies, not Joe Biden. I am running. You see, and there will be changes because circumstances have changed.
in all that, she didn't explain herself sufficiently, and she wasn't able to convince
Oh,
the
no, man.
Americans.
Yeah, she kept
Eloquent, man.
hugging. She kept
That
hugging
really was
back.
eloquent and
She
articulate.
kept hugging
Any more than
him.
that, boy, oh, that's not fair to her.
Oh man. Yeah,
Anyhow.
anyway, it's all done and over with. Trump win. I wish you guys luck in the US of A and the world. As a matter of
No,
fact,
the
because
world. There's
the point you
Yeah.
made,
The
the
world
point
is
you
right.
made is correct. What is he gonna do different over there? I don't see Trump doing anything different, maybe worse. And what I think is gonna be different is Ukraine. I think we'll see the war in Ukraine come to an end.
Well, you see the reaction where they get now
So
because
tell
he
me.
can't.
So tell me how.
He
Tell me
wants to
how.
impose tariff.
Stop funding it.
Tell me
want
how
to-
Ukraine will end.
you
Tell
want
me
to-
how
Stop
Ukraine.
sending, stop sending the bombs over there. Stop funding the war.
No. How will Ukraine end? How will it end?
What do you mean, how it'll end?
How will it end? He'll broker a deal, but who's going to be on the rough end of that stick?
I mean, who ought to be? Who ought to be? The war in Ukraine did not even have to happen, Berlin. There were many off-ramps, as people keep saying. They could have stopped that war before it started.
Who's they?
Who can?
America, the UK, the people who are supporting the war. That's who could have stopped that war. That's who made it. NATO could have stopped it from not wanting to go put that base in Russia. Simple.
So will Trump pull out of NATO, and will that be helpful?
I believe so. I believe.
And
He
that's going to be
won't pull
helpful.
out of NATO. He won't pull out of NATO.
He won't pull out of NATO, but he will not support the expansion of NATO.
And that's important. There's no reason to expand NATO.
Why?
That's what they were trying to do.
I know.
This war is about.
Look how Ukraine have embarrassed Russia.
What?
And we still need
Oh my
a bigger NATO to stop Russia. It's just ridiculous.
Mr. Morrison, let me put this on the record, and you can research it. And that's one of the issues that was brought up again coming out of this election, that the media, that media industry, complex industry, has moved away from facts.
Yes.
They're not basing their reporting on facts-based reports again. They are building their
Opinions.
reports to pander to people who they think are with them and for the profit. No.
And is that a change? And is that a
Yes,
change?
it's a huge
Of course it
change.
is.
That's been happening for.
No, let me come back now to the fact.
The media
You
controls
see
it.
this thing I went and thought about Ukraine. Putin attacked Ukraine because Ukraine was looking to go into NATO and NATO was encouraging. That is totally untrue.
NATO is getting ready to put a base in
NATO
Ukraine.
had made it clear that they will not now entertain Ukraine because they believe it could create a problem with Russia. So
Where
that
did
is
you
not,
get that, Joe?
that's
Where
what
did you get that?
I
No,
am-
that's not true.
Look it up.
Look at where? Give me a link.
Research.
Look it up, G.
Give me a
I
link.
don't.
Just
Give
go
me a
and
link.
Guys,
My mind is blown.
we have
just
reached the
find
end
out
of
whether
our.
just go and look up whether NATO had entertained Ukraine to join Ukraine.
I will do that. And
Do it.
I'm gonna talk about some more.
They
France
hadn't
was very much
entertained them.
against it. Turkey was strongly against it.
Yes, Turkey was, but all
Very
the other
strong.
countries were.
France was against it. They believed that it was not the right time to do it.
It was it's never the right time.
No, let me show you
It's
something.
never been
Let me show you something. Let's suppose you will talk about sovereignty of countries.
Uh-huh.
No, we don't want to go back to Cuba. because that doesn't make America right either. No, if you're a sovereign nation, don't you believe under international law, which we all belong to the United Nations, that I have a right to associate with who I want?
All right, now how do you
But
think?
not if it threatens.
How
not
do
if-
you think? Hold on, how do you think it would end if Mexico or Canada entertain the Soviet Union to put a base in their countries? Aren't they sovereign? Aren't they sovereign nations? Don't
Yes.
they have a right to
Yes, I think they have a right to do it.
All right, I see.
But the
Right,
question
but
is,
let them try.
no, Mr. Chairman, the difference between you're dealing with the politics of power as different from the politics of constitutionality of an independent state. No,
But we're dealing with politics and
in
reality.
the United Nations, in the world, you have 5 or 6 of them. How many we can veto any of those things?
Mhm.
So the United Nations at best is not really like an individual country with its sovereignty and rights.
Mhm. Mhm.
But don't tell me that I am saying this first, that Ukraine was never being encouraged by NATO collectively to join Ukraine.
Not all of
Joe.
them, but the US had pushed it, and England and France had saw that. I think Germany was the only real European power that showed a little bit of restraint against Ukraine. All the other
Thank you.
three
Why do you think-
were passive in sort of encouraging it, and I don't know why. Because
Last
it's a
question.
win-win
I
for
put the question this way.
that we see
Suppose right now, NATO sign an agreement with Russia, withdraw, turn back Crimea to Ukraine. We will sign an agreement that we will not allow Ukraine to come into NATO.
There'd be peace tomorrow.
Yeah.
That would, what
That
do
would not
you
be
think this war is about, Joe? Why do you think Russia?
Because
invaded-
I think Putin come with the same idea like Hitler, the expansionary policy.
Expansion,
God.
absolutely.
Putin wants to get back Russia like the
You
Soviet
don't drink
Union.
the Kool-Aid.
That's what he wants.
You don't
That's
drink
not
the healthy
Kool-Aid,
dose
that
of
is-
Kool- You tell Berlin.
Mr. Cowie, thank you so much for bringing some sanity to this discussion.
Putin has an expansionary policy just like Hitler.
Absolutely.
We have come to the end of the show. We're out of time. We'll continue next week, same time, same place. See why? Berlin, thanks a lot, Greg.
Well,
Joe.
That was good. Congratulations, Chairman. You did well.
Bye, Lisa. Bye, Bernie. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, man.
With a coffee and we royal. I am a royal coffee. My style sticky like toffee. They could have holla say me ugly, but a loon pretty girl stay to chase me. Royal coffee and my style sticky like toffee. How could you call me ugly when a loon pretty girl stay to chase me? Minor, tell you things you want make you catch feelings. Your mere existence you want left to examine. Ebenezer me gone, me know for the squeeze dumpling. Believe woman sweet like stew pumpkin. See me, but you don't know me. Confident, say that me bossy. Inquisitive, you call me nosy. Defend me rights, holler at me chancy. Me know this show no mercy. We don't take no back chat from nobody. You know have feel like me, but you must respect me. Tell them this more. I am a royal coffee. My style sticky like toffee. They could have holla say me ugly, but a lone pretty girl stay to chase me. Me cool and deadly. Machine gun Kelly. Machiavelli. Stay ready like Freddy. We have woman plenty. Woman the city, woman the country. You could act like you don't want believe me. Ask Dwight, that me Bali. I am a royal coffee. My style sticky like toffee. They could have holla say me ugly, but a lone pretty girl stay to chase me. Royal coffee, and my style sticky like toffee. How could you call me ugly when a lone pretty girl stay to chase me? Really? This one's for you. I want to grab some more waves. Grab your Belize and flat. Grab your brassiere. Grab your panty. Grab anything. And wheel. 1, 2, 3. I don't have to be beautiful now. Just like a peasant to this one. Anytime we see you, the temperature rise. You have to be beautiful now. Just like a peasant to this one. Anytime we see you, the temperature rise. Them call me up from a call me list fight. To the left, me to the right. Morning, noon, and night, yo. Just fit fight, whether I breathe, whether I try, whether I blue, whether I tight, whether I black, brown, yellow, green, or even white. Really don't know right. No madness, I don't know them right. Come and take you to higher, higher. Y'all don't have this meeting sooner. Just like a peasant to this man. Anytime we see you, let them take a ride. You have this meeting sooner. Just like a peasant to this man. Anytime we see you, let them take a ride. I'll just take y'all for my line. Most of my friends, they call me Joe Grind. I want you to take this song at that time. And why no fight they eat it? Check the dime. Satisfy your soul, body, and mind. With a thing to make out that fine. The way we mind, I just say, y'all, for my line. Most of my friends, they call me Joe Grind. I want you to take this song at that time. And why no fight they eat it? Check the dime. Satisfy your soul, body, and mind. With a thing to make out that fine. The way we mind. The things pile up. Y'all don't have this meeting sooner. Just like a peasant to this man. Anytime we see you, let them better ride. You have this meeting sooner. Just like a peasant to this man. Anytime we see you, let them better ride. Swap, swap, make the thing go clap, clap. Make the night don't stop, so make it drop, drop. Swap, swap, make the thing go clap, clap. Make the night don't stop, so make it drop, drop. Them call me up from a call me live fight. To the left, maybe to the right. Morning, noon, and night, yo. Just play fight when I breathe, when I try, when I blue, when I tight, when I black, brown, yellow, green, or even white. We really don't know right. No madness, I don't know them right. Come and take you to higher, higher. Y'all don't have this meeting sooner. Just like a peasant to this man. Anytime we see you, let them better ride. You got this meeting sooner. Just like a peasant to this man. Anytime we see you, let them bring a ride. I'll take the girl for my line. Most of my friends, they call me Joe Grind. I want you to take this shot at that time. And why no fight they eat it? Check the dime. Satisfy your soul, body, and mind. With a thing to make out that fine. The way we mind. I'll take the girl for my line. Most of my friends, they call me Joe Grind. I want you to take this shot at that time. And why no fight they eat it? Check the dime. Satisfy your soul, body, and mind. With a thing to make out that fine. The way we mind, you know, it's pile up, sweet, like cane syrup. Yo, respect and the man smoke it on. Once a body, international. Oh, here we go. Me and me body with the confess set it. Respect you, all beliefs and profits. Yeah, yo, yo. We know this seek no static. You da gunman, me after the bag, no fi stop it. We all again. Me and me jet with the confess set it. Respect you. Hi. We know this seek no static. And if you da gunman, please stop it. You have Lord Raven, Kenny Morgan, Papa Curly that the chase the boy named Sam Master Lee, Chico and Carlton Brown, them love the boy they run town. See when them youth decide to build a song, the concrete foundation so that they can't fall down. Some young shots in the big fish get green, then the beat. Check on the teacher when them draw down the slate. Pay attention now the tune so intricate. Wicked style, no food duplicate. Me and me jet with the confess setting. Respect you, all beliefs and profits, no. We know they seek no static, and if you would have bad man after the bag, no fit stop it, we ball again. Me and body confess setting, respect you. Wow. We know they seek no static, you would have gone man. Please stop it. Don't forget Paul Mobile, Malaki, Mohammed Ja'art, and the one on the B. Sherman and me Peter, legendary. Ratbana sing the song, she only want me. Plus, the female artists like Heavy D, Rock Down Gal and Tanya C, Samika and me friend Sweetie. All about the roots and reality we sing. Me and body with the confess set it. Respect jubilees and profits. Yo, we know they seek no static. You the bad man, please stop it. We sing again. Me and smoke with the confess set it. Respect you all beliefs can profit. Yeah, yeah, wow, wow, wow. See Christ say stop it if you the bad man. You no see nothing yet, you no hear nothing yet, you no know nothing yet. You better not say nothing yet. You want to know how somebody not dead yet? Eradicate all threats. Oh. Living in a Bobby wrong, and nothing nice. Life no have no value, but death's got a price. What's all 2 foot mice because planting no they eat like rice. Living in a Bobby wrong, and nothing nice. Life no have no value, but death's got a price. What's all 2 foot mice? Planting no they eat like rice. Surviving to me, it's my Kongin achievement. Now my main objective is just to stay on the pavement. I see cats go from showity to obscurity, self-inflicted mental enslavement. All I ever needed was just a little taste. No, I'm after the paper like Gregory at Chase. The industry is trying to welcome me back like Mace. All bad boys, now watch your face. I'm getting into cats' pockets before they go get in mine. I spit 82 bars before the replay could bust a rhyme. And the moms of shine is like a moms of mine. Big ups to all my cats on the grind. Rapping ain't easy, but I've done put in my bid. It's like the devil's playground, you can't be scared or timid. One life I've got, many lives I'll give. Cold talk, you know, we keep it frigid. BX 168 Gerard, but I treat the Big Apple like yard. We could do this my way, we could do this hard. Back off slowly or start talking to God. If it ain't assets or plastics, you ain't got no money. If it ain't high grade, you not rolling the bundy. If it ain't leather, it ain't sweet like honey. All thanks to Jah, even my nights is sunny. You could have $1 in a dream, but you've got to be asleep. You could be the president, you just got to pick the right seat. You can't be friends with everyone you meet. Ain't nothing nice in the NYC street. But if the devil offered you water, would you die of thirst? If you seen an old lady, would you snatch her purse? Would you mind being second if you couldn't be first? Would you mind clapping guns as I rate this verse? And I do what I do like I'm doing it for a feature. You be the creature, reverse your polarity, go against your nature. See how many of these niggas is really gon' hate you. Living in a Bobby wrong, and nothing nice. Life no have no value, but death's got a price. What's all 2 foot mice because planting no they eat like rice. Living in a Bobby wrong, and nothing nice.